Hi, good evening, everyone, and welcome to session 5 of the Entrepreneur Development Program for Foodpreneurs. Our session today is tips on photography. These days, the accessibility and the ease of taking food photos have become a blessing. But at the same time, it's a curse for the viewers of some of those photographs. The smartphone has enabled us to dip our toes in the food photography world to capture some enticing dishes, also resulted in some terribly unpalatable photos. Food photography as a subject is a specialized one involving training, skills, and often expensive equipment. Today's session is not about that. Today, we will see how we can better our photography skills with what we have at hand. To guide us with tips and knowledge is Zubin Balaporia. Zubin, who by profession is a musician par excellence. His romance with music spans more than 30 years. A keyboard player with the well-known rock band Indiscreet, earlier known as Rock Machine, producing music and sound design for several television, radio commercials, and corporate films for major international brands, and running his own sound recording studio. About 10 years ago, Zubin found a great passion for photography and travel adventure, and has a fabulous collection of photographs taken on his many excursions to exotic places around India and the rest of the world. I thought it fit to request his help for today's session because all his photography skills have been self-taught through reading and discussion with other photographers. Once Zubin covers all the points that he's prepared, we will take up the food images that many of you have sent in and review them to see how they could be improved upon. I realized there is great enthusiasm for this session because I was overwhelmed by the number of photographs that were sent in. And if by some of you have sent more than one. So if we don't have all 5 of your photographs on, please understand it's only because we will definitely run short of time. If you have any questions, my request is to please type them in the chat window and I will take them up with Zubin at the end of the session. Zubin, thanks for pitching in for this session. So if you're ready, we'll start with the first slide. Give me a thumbs up if you're good to go.
Absolutely good, Zarine, and thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to this.
Great. So let's move on. So we thought, even before you pick up your camera or your mobile phone, you need to think aesthetics. And I'll let Zubin go through each of these points.
Hi, everybody. I'm very happy to be a part of this presentation. And the idea here today is to just basically try and help you shoot some better photographs of all the great food that you make. So you must keep one thing in mind. Firstly, the most important thing is what is the message that you're trying to send to the person who's going to view your photographs. Just keep that very much in mind when you take the photograph. So we're going to start with some basic aesthetics, and this is just this is nothing to do with photography. It's really just common sense. So clear the area that you're going to shoot, figure out where you're going to shoot, how you're going to position your plate. These are all very important things. Usually the tendency is to just plonk down the plate of food that you've made and put your phone camera on top and take a photograph of it. But that is definitely not the right way to do it. First, think of where you're going to put it. Clear that area, keep it clean, make sure that there are no stains. If you have a tablecloth, make sure the tablecloth is not crumpled. You'll be surprised if you actually go back and look at your own photographs now, keeping these things in mind. You will be saying to yourself, how come I didn't even notice that this was there? How come I didn't notice this problem in the photograph? So what are the common elements that you need to really look out for? First of all, as I said, clean the area, keep it nice and clean. Second, choose a suitable backdrop. what do we mean by backdrop? If you see the picture right in front of you, you can see that this bowl of food, this dish has been placed on some kind of a wooden table. So the person who has placed it there has taken care and kept in mind that I'm going to use this kind of a backdrop. Now your backdrop is very, very important because it definitely complements or it could ruin your photograph. So if you have a busy plate, if you have a lot of stuff in your plate, if your dish is like that, try and keep your backdrop as clean as possible. Maybe a table, a polished dining table, or maybe even a slab of stone, something that is not too cluttered and doesn't have too much in the backdrop. Let's say, for example, you need a little bit of light, so you go and put your dish on your balcony. Now what happens is you got nice light coming on your dish, but when you take the photograph, you're seeing the balcony railing, maybe your neighbor's clothes hanging on the balcony opposite. So you obviously don't want all that. Your message is very important, and you want to aesthetically treat every photograph that you are clicking. The next point is choosing the serving dish wisely. So what kind of dish are you going to put your food in? Is it going to be round? Is it going to be square? Is it going to complement the backdrop? What is the color? If you've got colorful food in your plate and you want to show the food off, don't pick a plate with too many patterns, designs, and colors. Keep a nice white plate. Immediately your food will stand out so much more on that. So keep in mind that these things are very important. The plate, even the spoon and fork, the position, if you want to put it in, these are all very, very important. Then I would like to say, decide on your message. What is your message? What is the kind of food you are trying to impart? The message that you're trying to impart from the food that you're showing. I think we'll go into that a little detail as we go down. Next point would be keep props handy. So we've noticed that when people sent in the photographs, there was a lack of props used anywhere. What do we mean by props? It means basically if you're shooting your food, it doesn't mean that the entire frame of the photograph should just be your food. For example, you could put a small little vase with a flower in it to complement the dish, or you could put a nicely folded serviette in one corner. You could put a fancy spoon and fork aligned in a particular way. So we'll again go more into detail when we go through these points later on, but that's what we mean basically by props. Keep something in the photograph other than just the food and the plate. And finally, the most common problem, and actually it's just common sense, clean crockery, no splashes, stains. So very often we see a bowl of curry and there'll be a little few dots on the rim. No, that's terrible. It's very easy to just wipe and clean that. Or if you're showing a lovely cup of coffee, you're seeing a few grains of powder on the rim or on the handle. That's definitely an absolute no-no. So make sure your crockery, your cutlery, everything is absolutely crystal clean, and you will definitely have a much, much better photograph.
Great. So what I'll do now is I'll stop the share so you will have full screen to share the points on lighting.
Okay.
Let me spotlight you. Okay. Yeah.
So what I'm going to do, very easy thing to do when you're shooting. It's very complicated sometimes to have the right light when you're shooting. Sometimes if you go outside, it's a cloudy day, or the sun is just not shining in a particular way that you want on your dish. So one very simple solution I've found is if you can grab somebody else's phone, just take the phone and put the torch on. So I'm just going to demonstrate this a bit. Where's the torch? Okay, here we go. Now we've got the torch, right? So if you're going to shoot something, let's just pick up any random object. And I'm just going to place something, it's not a food object, but if I'm shooting something like this, and I just put the light on it from above, you'll see how much brighter. I don't know if you can see it on Zoom, but it's very easy. I mean, you can see the light shining on my head, for example. So it's a very simple solution. Just borrow your husband, wife, brother, son, steal their phone for 5 minutes, and you can just position your phone with the torch light on your subject. and immediately you'll have a nice illuminated glow. It's a very, very simple trick and tool. And what you can do also, I mean, it's very difficult to take a photograph while holding the phone. So maybe you could request somebody to hold it for you. Or what you can do, you can buy this, something like this on Amazon. So what this is basically, it's got a clamp here, which clamps onto something like a table or a chair. And on the other side is another clamp. I'm going to just bring this closer. And this is like, like the jaws of an alligator. So you can put your phone here like this, and now you can clamp this part onto a table, and you don't have to hold the phone with the torch any longer. It's like a stand that helps you, position your light. So if you have two of these, in fact, you could put one phone with the light, and you could put the phone with the camera on the other one. So you really don't have to use your hands at all. What is the advantage of mounting your camera, which you're taking the photograph with, on a clamp? Is because what happens is it's very difficult to hold the phone absolutely still while taking a shot. So if you put it on a clamp, it's much easier. Then there's no shaking, etc. You just, when you're ready, you can just click the button and you'll get a nice photograph. Now, having said that, there are two things to remember even here. One is, very few people know that all phones, now I shoot with an iPhone, but if you don't have an iPhone and an Android phone also, this is prevalent on all phone cameras. When you take a picture, all right, don't forget, let's say, for example, I'm taking a picture of this door. Don't forget to do this. Put your finger down here and you'll see a little yellow square come up. Not sure you can see it in the camera here, but if you do it on your phone, you'll see what this does is basically it focuses your phone camera on whatever you're trying to shoot. So nobody does this. I don't know why. And this is not just to do with food photography. If you're shooting even a picture in a party or you're outside on holiday, whatever, please do this. Put the finger on and you'll see whichever spot you put the finger on, a little yellow square come up. And that means that is the place where the camera lens is going to focus.
We have one video, Zubin, that shows this clearly.
Yes,
so that may help them.
Okay, so we'll forward to that later on. And the other thing I wanted to mention to you is, even when you put the camera on the stand and when you when you want to take the shot and you click the button, it does shake sometimes a little bit. So here's another easy tip. On most phones, you have a timer, phone camera. So what you do is put it on timer. What does timer mean? In the old days, even your camera had a timer. So if you wanted to take a photograph with you in the picture, you put it on a 10-second timer and you quickly ran and stood with your family. And then after 10 seconds, the camera automatically took a picture. If you do this with your phone camera, the camera will not shake because you're not touching it at all. You set it on 10 seconds and just stand back. And after 10 seconds, the camera will take a lovely picture. So these are just some simple tips on lighting and shooting, which should help you shoot better photographs.
Okay, so what do you have to say about taking shots from different angles, Zubin? Because most people tend to take their food shots, from the top.
Right.
So is that the best, or are there different options?
Okay, so here I would say, don't be afraid to be creative and try different stuff. But keep in mind, again, what you're trying to show. So for example, if you're shooting pizza, obviously it would make sense to shoot it from the top because you want to see the pizza clearly. You shoot a pizza from the side, all you're going to see is the crust. So that doesn't make sense. So keep in mind what you're shooting. Maybe if you're shooting a burger, I would think you want to shoot it from the side, because if you shoot it from the top, all you're going to see is the top of the bread. But you want to see the lettuce, you want to see the slice of meat, you want to see the cheese. You want to shoot it from the side. So keep in mind what you're shooting, because that's very, very important. Now, we're going to deal with another subject coming later on called negative space, but I'll just quickly tap into it. Don't go very close and shoot only the thing that you want. Sometimes you want that little space around it, So yes, you may want to put your burger right in the center, but don't make it so that, that's the full frame and you just see only the burger in the frame. We'll talk about that a little later. And what's the other point? Yes, the last point I wanted to make is, one thing you can do is don't be scared to sit down and shoot. Even when you go outside, nobody does this. You know, when you're shooting something and your normal tendency is to just put the camera up like this and shoot. But very often, if you squat or go down on your knees and shoot something, you'll get a different perspective. And sometimes it's really nice. Now, why does this work? What happens is, if you have an object, let's take, for example, a milkshake glass. Let's say you have a nice glass with milkshake in it, and you want to shoot that. Now, I don't think shooting that from the top makes sense. Definitely, you want to shoot it from the side so that you can see the glass, you can see the milkshake, and maybe the little rim of foam on the top. But if you go even lower and let's say shoot like this, you know, so let's take the camera, a phone, okay? Instead of shooting it straight like this, tilt the camera, sit down, lower under maybe lower than the level of the milkshake glass, and shoot upwards like this. Now, why does this work? If you see, open Times of India or any newspaper and you see any ad for a car, you will always find that the cameraman, the person who has shot it this way. So what happens is, when you shoot from down, there is a natural aberration that the lens creates in a nice way. So what happens is, you get a sort of larger than life picture. The image seems to burst forth, you know, like this. So it's a great way of shooting. The classic example I would give is milkshake, because it'll make your glass look like a, you know, big tower. And when I say aberration, I mean it in a good way. So don't be scared to go lower than your subject and shoot upwards. You'll get very, very interesting, different perspectives. So don't be boring. Don't just go cut and shoot. Try different angles, go down, shoot from the side, see where you can position your camera, see what's behind, see what's interfering. Also be careful of shadows. Depending on where your light is coming from, you'll naturally have a shadow. You don't want that shadow to be ruining any part of your photograph.
Thanks, Zub.
Yeah.
Let's move on to using props. You know, through all the photographs we received, it is very, very obvious that hardly anybody has used any props. When I say props, I mean anything that you can add on to the main subject, like a table napkin or crockery, maybe some herbs, a little potted plant, flowers, color to add color, fruits, vegetables. So what we've done is we've prepared a series of slides to show you how a photograph can look different without props and as props are gradually added. So please give me a moment. I'll just share my screen. I'm sorry, please be patient. I seem to be having a lot of internet issues today. Right, okay. Zubin, would you like to go ahead and explain what we've done here?
I want to just quickly backtrack a little bit on the subject of lighting till you get this done. One thing I forgot to add is that you could also use a lamp. If you have a reading lamp, a simple reading lamp you can put on the side, and it will give you very nice light. Just keep one thing in mind. Try and avoid using a bulb that's white light. You want yellow, warm light is always better. So that's a point I forgot to add. And the other thing is, if you're using a powerful reading light, don't point the light directly at your subject. Point it a little away so that the light sort of reflects maybe off a wall or something, because a direct light is always hard. A reflective light is always much softer. Are you in a position to play those slides, Zarine, or do you want me to continue?
My sincere apologies. I seem to be having a lot of internet issues today.
No problem. So, I think the slides we're going to show you, if we can get them up and running, are basically 5 slides where first you see only the dish. and then you see props added one by one. And then at the end, you should be able to see a full picture to make out why props really work and how they can really complement the picture.
Sorry, am I audible now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm really very sorry about this. I seem to be having a lot of issues today with internet. Please bear with me. All right, we're back on track.
Lovely.
Zubin, over to you to explain these. Just let me know when I can change the slide.
Yeah, so as you can see the bowl in the front, we want to also show you how you can shoot. Now, if you see this, the first frame has got much more of space all around it. The second one is a much closer shot. There's a little bit of the flower on the outside of the bowl that you can see. You can choose whichever one works for you. And then, can you go to the next one, Zarine? Yeah, now you can see how things are being added to the frame to make it more interesting. You can go to the next one. Yeah, still better. Now you got a little bit of green in the background. And now you've got so much more information in the screen, in your shot. So keep in mind not to make it too cluttered also, because you got your watcher, the person who's watching, to focus on what is primarily your subject. For example, if this is your subject right in the top, then you don't want him to focus on something in the corner. So don't keep it too cluttered, but definitely do add props, because they make a big difference to your final image, rather than just shooting your curry rice or just shooting your tansak or whatever it is that you're shooting.
Okay, shall we move on to focus?
Yes. So this is an image. It's not obviously a food image, unless you're fond of eating butterflies. But the thing here that I want to show is, with a professional camera, there's something you can do that you can't really do on phones, which is basically blur out your background and keep your focus on your subject very sharp. So if you are shooting, or if you have a good camera and you want to shoot on a camera, that is of course much better, but it's tedious, because after you shoot, then you have to transfer onto computer and then back on your phone, whatever. Shooting on phone is very convenient, but this is something you can't do on phone. So if you see this picture, you will see that the waterfall in the background is nicely blurred out. You can see it, but it's not in sharp focus. Whereas the butterfly, which is obviously the subject in this photograph, is in absolute sharp focus. So photographers, amateur guys who have cameras, keep in mind that you can do this, and it's very nice, because your subject, whatever your dish, will be in sharp focus, and whatever your props are around will be nicely blurred out to complement, and it makes whatever's in focus to pop out nicely.
So Zubin, in that case, if you're saying that the mobile doesn't do this,
Yeah.
then you know that yellow square we spoke about,
Yes.
the focus.
Yes.
How does that work then?
Yeah, so the yellow square, what it will do is basically, it will see, any camera wants to know where do you want to focus. So whether you're working with your phone camera or you're working with a professional camera, all cameras want to know where do you want to focus. So this, when you put your finger on the screen and you get that yellow spot, what it will do, it'll definitely make the camera lens focus very sharply on that subject. It won't blur out really what's around it. If you want to blur it out, you have to work with your aperture, which is more complicated, and it works on only professional cameras. So to get this kind of effect, this blurry effect, is called a bokeh. It's spelled B-O-K-E-H. I'm not sure exactly how it's pronounced. But bokeh means basically getting this very nice blur in the background while a subject is sharp in focus elsewhere. Now you could actually reverse this. If you're looking at the shot, and let's say I wanted the viewer to focus on the waterfall, then I would blur out the butterfly and I'd have the waterfall in sharp focus. You can do that as well on a professional camera, but there's a little it's your phone cameras are good, but they still can't do this as good as a pro camera. So if you do have a professional camera and you're good at it, experiment with this, because it will definitely make your photograph stand out a little more.
Right. Let's move on to different kinds of backgrounds and why some of these are good. In what way are these good?
So if you see the first image, it's been obviously, I'm talking about the first image on the top left corner. It's obviously shot in on some kind of a wooden table. Now, when you're dealing with backgrounds, think of it two ways. Are you going to contrast the background to what your food is, or are you going to complement it with the same color? So here, clearly, it's an attempt to complement it, because basically the colors that are in the bowl of the dish, the food is basically like a sort of beige brown color, and that kind of complements the background, the table that it's been set up on. If you see, there's a little tomato slice at the bottom left, which is why there's a little bit of red in the dish itself. So this has been planned. So if you look at it very carefully, you think of it as just a bowl of food. But if you actually see, there's a green capsicum on the top, and there's green in the dish itself. There's a red, I think that's a bell pepper, not a tomato.
Yeah, it is a bell pepper.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. So there's a red bell pepper down, and there's red in the dish. There's brown in the dish, and there's light brown on the surface of the table. So now we've analyzed this photograph. Maybe previously you just looked at the photograph and said, it's a bowl of food. But now, having analyzed it, you've seen there's a thought process. I haven't shot this. This is shot by somebody. I don't know who it is. But there is a thought process. There is a matching green, there is a matching red, and there is a matching brown beige. So that's your first photograph. If you go to the second photograph, is that garlic?
Yeah, garlic.
Yeah. So if you see here, it's clearly a contrast. The garlic is like an off-white, ivory white color, and the background is a dark blue, gray, black. So it makes the garlic pop out and stand out, because the background is so dark and this is white. Again, if you notice in this photograph, it's a nice photograph, and the photographer hasn't placed the garlic right in the center. He's put it slightly to the left. And I think it works perfectly fine. So this is a good example to see that you don't always have to put your food right in the middle. You can put it slightly off center. It does work. Moving to the photograph on the top right, that's obviously an offset. The colors are sort of contrasting each other, and they've chosen a nice sort of, I think it's a bark of a tree or a stone, so that you see the grooves cut in, and that kind of complements what's in the dish. Moving to the photograph on the bottom left corner, very clearly the background is complementing rather than offsetting what's in the dish. And it's nicely placed pretty much in the center. If you see how the handles of the dish are put, you may be tempted to have put it absolutely straight, but if you see, the bowl itself has been put diagonally. So one handle is one corner, one handle is somewhat in the other corner. So again, when you're analyzing this photograph, now look at it this way, that why did he not put it absolutely straight? It's basically slightly tilted. It's just a design element, and I think it brings out something in the photograph. If you see what it's placed on, it looks like a tissue or a mat. There's a little curl at the bottom, and you can see a nice bit of purple or mauve kind of color in the bottom, which also gives it a nice effect. Going to the photograph in the on the bottom center of the screen, the blue cake, very clearly you can see the same kind of blue in the wooden slats behind, which is very unusual. The wooden slats are usually brown or gray, but there's a nice tinge of blue there, and I think it complements it beautifully. So once you start seeing it like this, this is called reading a photograph. So when you study photography, they say, try and read a photograph. Don't just look at it. So now we're reading a photograph. So we're getting into the minds of the photographer and the person who composed the photograph, and we're reading into their minds to understand why they put it like this, why they did it like this. Again, in the cake, I would like to point out that they've put a nice white mat under it, and that just makes it pop out a little. If you were to take that white mat out, maybe the blue would have just merged with that gray blue surface that it's put on. So they put a nice little white mat, which makes the cake pop out even more. And finally, looking at the picture on the right, again, you will see the fish is pointed towards, if you see the angle, now which way would you put the fish? Would you put it pointing head facing right or head facing left? I think head facing left works because if you see the cutting board that is under, the handle is on the left. So it kind of works really nicely. And again, you've got a little green at the bottom. Complementing that is a green in diagonally opposite right corner. And to bring a little color into it, there are those two, are those lemons, Zarine?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, there are two nice lemons there to just bring a little yellow into the whole picture. So nice combination of brown, yellow, green, silver white of the fish. And then what's on the right is those ice cubes on the in the glass on the right bottom.
Okay, sorry. There are things covering that. Yes, I think so.
Yeah, so I mean, why would you put that? Very simple, because the color is very similar to the color of the fish, and it kind of just matches with that and gives you a very nice vibe. The background is pretty busy. I mean, I would probably choose something a little sort of flatter, but having said that, it's a nice composition. So think of your photograph like a piece of music. Think of your photograph like a painting. Where are you going to place your subject? Which way is it going to face? Why? You know, you need to spend time. You need to understand that you just can't put your camera there once you finish your cooking. Think of the amount of time you took into preparing a dish, right? You didn't just put something, just heat it for 5 minutes. No, you followed a recipe, you followed a plan, and probably took you an hour or two to get it to look and taste delicious. You must spend the same amount of time to now make it presentably delicious. So it must look great. So think about it when you take your photographs. Think.
Okay, we'll move to arrangement, which I think is very important because I've been looking at the photographs that come in, and in fact, I often on Facebook see a lot of dhansak pictures with a plate filled with rice with a lot of dal just poured over it, a little kachubar on the side. And it doesn't say anything. One, it's a top shot. So I see only a few grains of rice from the side, and there's this messy plate of dal. So I think we have to start realizing that food needs to be arranged on a plate. And maybe some of these Zubin will go through and tell you why this looks better than that.
So clearly, if you look on the left, and Zarine set this up very nicely, so it kind of gives you a comparison. So if you're looking at the pancake right in the center, instead of having one single pancake, a stack of pancakes always looks much greater, much nicer. You know, it looks, I mean, it just looks more appealing. It just looks more delicious. You got to keep in mind, see, dhansak, curries, dals, these are very tricky to shoot because how do you make them look really, really delicious and not messy in any kind of way? And let's take a simple example. Let's say, for example, you're a meat supplier and you want to tell people that you have the best fresh raw meat. But if you take a picture of raw meat, I mean, I don't know any photographer who can make that look really great. So you have to think about your food. How are you going to present your food? Clearly, the pancakes on the right stack look much better. An arrangement of colors with the donuts on the left look nice. Even the cookies on the left look good. Now, if you see cookies, and the obvious partner to cookies is a glass of milk. So you can see that milk now that's a prop, right? You're actually selling the cookies, you're not selling the milk. But when you put it together, it just basically makes the picture look much better. Yeah, you could have easily taken one cookie and just taken one shot of it. No, the person decided, let's stack the cookies so that they look nice. And then what goes well with cookies? A glass of milk. Let's put a glass of milk. But do we want to focus on the milk? No, we want to focus on the cookies. So therefore, the cookies are in full frame, but the glass of milk is cut off halfway. So immediately you understand that this is a prop. It's basically aiding your picture and it is not distracting in any way. Yes, you don't want to put the glass of milk right in the front because obviously that's not your subject. So again, why am I telling you all this? I'm reading this photograph. You need to, if you see food for photographs and you see hundreds of them on the internet, now you must read and analyze those photographs for yourself. see a beautiful photograph on the internet, analyze why it looks good, which angle has it been shot with, what are the props used, what are the colors, what are the backgrounds, what's the plate. So, yep, I think the bottom picture is a bunch of chocolates. Chocolate balls, show many chocolate balls with one in the front, gives a different image from just zeroing in very hard on just one chocolate solitary ball.
So all yours.
Okay, so using human elements in your picture. Very often, not very often, most often, people don't put a human element in the picture. And I think that's a big mistake. Try and use it wherever you can without obstructing your photograph. Yes, if you're shooting alone, it's tricky. How do you take the photograph and put your hand in at the same time? Use the timer and stand, as I explained earlier. Put the camera on a stand, put it on timer, and then just, put your hand there and you can position it and then keep looking and seeing if your photograph comes out well. Now, putting your hand or any human element in a photograph tells you many things, okay? The first thing, when you put your hand in a photograph, it immediately tells the viewer how big is the subject. What do we mean by that? Let's take pizza, all right? Pizza, you can have really small pizzas. You can have a medium size round. You can have a pizza this size. You can have a pizza the size of my hand. Then you can have your whatever 8 or 10-inch one. Then you can have your 12-inch one. So if I shoot a pizza without anything in it, how am I telling my viewer that this is a small one, big one, medium size? There's no way for him to know. So if you have a pricing and that person is saying, okay, it's 200 bucks for the pizza, but what's the size of the pizza? Is it medium, large, small? Is it one of those small ones, whatever? Put a hand in, immediately you know, because your hand is the comparison to aid the size of your subject. So putting your hand in the picture basically tells the viewer what is the size of whatever you are presenting. And I think pizza is a classic example, and burger is another, because you can have those little burgers. You can have a burger this big, you can have a burger that big. The other thing the hand conveys is what it's doing over there and showing. So for example, the picture on the left, the person is kneading dough. So it shows that the person works with his hands and it's fresh and it's not some machine that's doing it. So that's the message that's coming out. I think the picture on the right is basically just putting some garnish on it. The picture on the bottom left is a person stirring the coffee cup. Now, very clearly, if it's hot chocolate or coffee, the minute you see the hand, you know how large that cup is. So if that's what you're serving, let's say ice cream in a cup that big, you basically know immediately. And of course, you could have shot the person on the pizza shot could have been shot in different ways, but the hand is beautiful because it tells you the size. And it also shows all that lovely cheese dripping. So it's a sort of yummy, delicious photograph. So do use your hands in the photograph. It's very nice and it conveys a very lovely message of what you are trying to sell, and also the size, very importantly, of what you're trying to sell.
This is what we were talking about, because
Yes.
if you see the photographs that we've received, most of them are what the left-hand picture is showing in terms of utilizing the entire lens area to focus only on that versus what we see on the right here.
So this is any day, I would say the right side picture is better. You may say, hello, but it's my food is, not being shown clearly, or it's not in your face. It doesn't have to be in your face. You want to present a nice picture. You present a nice picture, immediately your food looks good. Okay, so this is what is known as negative space. So use the space creatively. Again, if you see the picture on the right, it is not center. It is bottom right, and it's absolutely fine. It looks delicious. It's got a much better angle than zooming in really, really close. And one tip I would like to give while looking at this is, if you're shooting any vegetables or fruits, or the obvious nice thing is to always take a little water and chato it on top, because water droplets look lovely and it gives an impression of freshness and something that's very organic. So keep that in mind if you're shooting any fruit or vegetables.
So Zubin, we went through the camera timers. So these are 5 things that Zubin and I thought that we really should let you all know. And please make notes if you need to, because this is something we've come across while looking through those photographs. So the camera timer Zubin has been through. Too much text matter, and I'll put it across along with this placing text on top of images. Lots and lots of photographs flooding Facebook, with order now, Dhansak across the Dhansak. Now, this is completely taking away from your images, and placing text on top of images is a 0-0. Please use your corners, bottom, low, wherever there is no image and there is maybe negative space, you can use that, but less text, let the image speak for your product. Take several shots so that it's not one, you need to take 10 or 15 by the time you've decided that there's one or two that will work for you. And please dedicate a day to food photography, because I do not think we're doing that. It's like, I've made kebabs today, so let me just quickly take a picture of this plate of kebabs before I parcel it and send it off. That's not how the photography will work. So take a day in the week when you're not busy, when you don't have orders, and do a whole series of photos, which then you can gradually post maybe daily or 3 times a week, etc. But you need to dedicate as much time to the food photography as you do to your cooking. Zubin, anything you want to add to this?
Yes, there's one other thing. How to use the camera timer we explored already. There's also one other trick you can do is you can set your camera to take multiple shots, like 10 photographs. There's a setting on all cameras to do that. We don't usually use it, but if you just fiddle around, you will find it. So what happens is, let's say, for example, you've put your hand sprinkling something, and then you set your camera to take 10 photographs. So when it starts going tuck, 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 just move your hand out like this. So what will happen is you'll get a series of photographs. You won't get the same 10 photographs. You'll get your hand here, you'll get your hand here, moving like this, So that's another interesting thing. You can use your hand. If you move it fast, you'll get a nice blur. So that adds a little sort of, something to the photograph that makes it stand out from just a typical food shot. So less is more. Absolutely. Please don't put any text on your food. It just ruins it completely. Find a nice spot and keep it down to the bare minimum. It's information you want to impart, whether it's your price or whether it's your address or whatever. It is tricky because at the end of the day, there's only that much you can fit into a screen where most people will be reading on a phone. So keep that in mind also in your text. Let it be clear. Let it be big where it needs to be. But keep it minimal. Keep your information crisp and clean. Nothing extra. You don't have to write wonderfully delicious, superbly made. No, that has to show in the photograph. So keep your text really, really sharp and to the point. And like Zarine said, if you have spent 4 hours, 6 hours preparing a dish, why spend only 10 seconds to take a photograph? Doesn't make sense. You want to spend a lot of time on taking that photograph. Experiment, move the light around, get down, shoot up, stand on a ladder, be creative. I mean, there's no real absolute rule on how to do it. And we are very lucky because today the cameras and lenses on phones are absolutely superb. Experiment a bit and you can really get some great photographs, but don't be lazy about it and don't just snap up of a few photographs. And again, take a few shots, take 10, 15, 20. What does it matter? It's free. You don't have to print them. You don't have to develop film like the old days, nothing. Just take 10, 15, 20 photographs, choose the best one, erase the rest, and you're good to go.
Do you want to tell them a little bit of how a photograph is a great way to tell a story without actually using words?
So I think I covered this a little bit in the beginning, that what is the message you are trying to impart? And I think, Zarine, what we can do is if we move to this, if we don't have anything else to cover and we jump to the photographs which was sent.
Yes, you'll do it through that.
Kind of expand on this topic.
Okay,
there.
so we can do that one video on editing on the phone that we have. So I can ask, I will, I think, stop the share. Yazdi, can you do this with me sharing, or should I stop share? Yazdi? Ah, okay. Well, we need
simple editing while taking a photograph. So first I wanted to just show you in this video what we are shooting. So it's just simple 4 bananas. And in the next video, I'll show you an easy way of taking the shot and then editing it to make it look better. So we're going to be shooting these 3 bananas. The idea is to see how we can make them look better after we shoot it with some basic editing tools that are available on most phones. So the first thing I would advise you to do is always when taking a photo, put your hand on it. Most phones will allow you to do this. A little yellow box will come, and then you know that basically the focus is on the subject. So now I'm just going to take this photograph, even though it's very far and I can see Zarine's legs and I can see the table and tablecloth, etc. So here we go. I've taken the photograph. Now we get to the editing stage. So I'm going to select the photograph, and the first thing I'm going to do is go to edit. Now this may not be exactly the same on your phone, but most phones will have it. Then I go to this sign here which says crop, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically take out all the unwanted elements here. So I'm going to move these lines like this and like this. Now even when you're cropping this, try and keep the sort of same distance, not so for example not like this, but the same distance, so it looks like a nice picture. When you're done, you do done, and there you go. You've got a nice picture. Now further to this, what you can do is click on this and again go edit, and you have some tools here to make your picture better. So one thing I like to do is there's a feature here called warmth. That's this little bulb like sign, and when you click on that, and then you can adjust. See, this is making it very whitish and dull, but if you go the other way, you get a very nice yellow kind of orange tone to it. So there's a lot of other stuff you can edit here, but I'm not going to go into that because it will get a little technical. But once I'm happy with the color, we just do done, and there you go. You got a lovely picture.
So do
Thanks,
use those.
Yazdi.
Thanks, Yazdi. Do use those editing tools. They're absolutely fantastic, but don't get carried away, because at the end of the day, suddenly your photograph is looking very different from your food. Then when your food is sent to your person who's buying it, he say, hello, this is not what it looked like in the photograph. So try and keep the image nice and touched up a bit, but it should look like obviously like the food that you're cooking or shooting.
Okay, so now we'll move to the critical evaluation of the photographs that were sent in. These are anonymous. Each one will know what they've sent in. We're just going to look at what is wrong with them, and how can we improve on them. All yours now, Zubin.
All right, so we'll take the photograph on the left. Chicken, French fries, onions in a black container box. Now, most importantly, I keep saying this, what is the message that you want to send when you click your photograph? Now before I go on, I just want to say that whatever I say about the photographs, please don't feel bad, or I'm not trying to put the photographs down or whatever. I'm just trying to make you aware of how you can make this better and what is the message, most importantly, that you're sending out. Now, when I see the image on the left, there are two things that are conveyed to me. One, that this person is very busy and has huge orders, because he's obviously got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, almost 15 containers with chicken, and it's nice looking chicken, lovely looking fries and onions, whatever. But so this is good. That means you're thinking, wow, okay, this guy is really good, man. He's got so many orders. But it can also convey that something here is mass produced. So it's pretty much the same thing, right? It's a chicken leg and it's French fries, potatoes, onions. So do I want my food to be mass produced, or do I want something that's very special? Is this person making food like a McDonald's where everything is sort of, the same burger, every burger tastes the same way? Or is it a specialized dish created for me, So there's a good message and there's a not so good message in shooting like this. So keep this in mind, because without thinking about it, your photograph is definitely going to impart a message to whoever is seeing it. And if it's a good message, great, that works for you. If it's not a good message, then it's not going to work for you. So keep that. It's principally the most important thing when you're about to take your photograph. Ask yourself, what is the message of this photograph? And then start to think creatively. Zarine, you want to talk about the one on the right?
No, I will leave it. No, to me, it's once again where, there is absolutely no space left. It's just the plate with the food on it. I would have liked, maybe even a different arrangement. I don't mind if one little tart is maybe put even outside the plate on a nice mat or something. Not necessarily that everything should be in, and it's much too close. It needs to be taken from a little further away with other elements in it.
Yes. So keeping in mind whatever we discussed, if the person who has sent this photograph can experiment, first of all, using a more clean white plate. So you don't have these lines in the left, right? Because if you look at the bottom, you're getting reflection of light all around the bottom of the plate. Also, I don't think the picture is absolutely crystal clear. So clearly, this is a photograph that has been taken quickly. The dish has been put, the phone has been put there, and it's been taken. Now, using all the stuff that we covered today, a cleaner plate, focus, because I think the focus is definitely gone out. The picture is not absolutely crystal clear, and not keeping it right in your face. So a little far back, and there's a nice red thing on the top. I think it's part of the tablecloth or something. You must bring that more into the picture. It would look so much better if it is shot a little further, and I think just a cleaner plate. And otherwise, it would make for a really nice picture. Okay, so the picture on the top, actually, be careful of what is your message. If you put too much into the picture, it's confuses the viewer. So if you put too little, then the viewer thinks, okay, they don't have a huge range of stuff. So it's a tricky fine line to cross. But you definitely don't want to put, if you're making a huge variety of, what are these cupcakes? What are these, Zain?
I think there's some tarts.
Okay, tarts. So let's just assume they're tarts. So if you put only just one or two tarts, then the viewer might say, oh, nice, but not a huge selection. If you put 20 of them, the viewer is saying, yeah, okay, huge selection, but which one is this and what one is that? So it's a fine line. Get some line in between, and don't put too much. I find there are too many tarts in this. If you've got some, and there's doesn't seem to be any kind of geometrical positioning. So basically, it's just tarts put on a table and one photograph has been taken. But let's say if the person were to align the tarts in just one single row of, say, 5 tarts, okay, and just have a bare, the surface is nice, actually, it's a nice wooden surface. Now, again, keep in mind your backdrop. Your backdrop is very, very important. Now, the person who has taken this photograph has forgotten that there is somebody sitting opposite, and that person is in the frame. I can see a hand, I can see a black t-shirt with some writing on it, whatever. It's too distracting, and it has nothing to do with your food. So you definitely don't want that. So please try and shoot this again. You've got some nice attractive colors in your tarts. And your surface is fine. Keep just 6 of them in a row, maybe a cross, maybe a diagonal, maybe a triangle, make a pattern, shoot it from a little far, and I think you'll have a much better picture. Going down to the one on the bottom left. Are these mushrooms, Zarine?
Yeah, that's what I gather. I don't know what is on the knife, but definitely there's coriander leaf and the mushroom, and then there are some crackers. There's some kind of paste. Maybe it's a mushroom paste or a dip, sort of a mushroom dip. So I think the raw. I mean, you know what we've been talking about, props. Then mushroom are acting as the props for the mushroom dip. That's what I gather.
So I find this photograph a little confusing because I'm not sure what the person who has shot it is trying to tell me. Are they selling the crackers, or are they selling the mushrooms, or whatever's on is that a spatula or a
So
knife?
like a a sort of wooden one. Yes.
So you definitely need to clean this up, and it's first of all not apparent to me what is the subject in this. And there's a bowl in the top left corner, which I'm not sure what it's doing. Is it part of the food? Is it just come in accidentally? So again, I think, and the crackers are piled up, but there seems to be one poking out on the right side. So use everything that we spoke about today. Keep this much cleaner. Arrange your subject so that it is very dominant and clear that that's what you're selling. Again, this seems to be a hasty photograph. The food has been placed, camera has been placed, and it has been clicked. So it can be a very nice photograph. The green is nice. The stone surface looks nice, but then why have that white background and the table in the background as well? Just keep the nice full black surface, like the photograph in the right, much, much better. So keep it less confusing. The photograph on the right, I see an attempt to make it nice, and it's definitely working. Look at the way the black surface, the stone surface is complementing what's on it. And there's a nice, I can't figure out what it is, whether it's a white gray tile in the background, but it's a really nice photograph. It's been done nicely. Only thing is, there's no focus. It looks blurry, and if you just use that tip of putting your finger on what you're trying to on the screen, you'll get a far better focus. But I think this is at least an attempt to make something simple and presentable. It could be shot again a little far. It doesn't have to be that dominant in your face. That's all. Okay, so the photograph on the left, it's just too close. Okay, and because it's too, now this is a tricky photograph. I mean, how you want to put Sully on something on, I think it's Mulgi, right? So it's very tricky because the minute you put Sully, it's going to go all over the place. But you want to arrange it a little bit. Don't have the Sully poking out from one side. These are all important things. And it's way, way, way too close. So white plate is good, but you don't need to zoom in so hard on it. Even if you pull out a little bit and have a nice surface area, what we call negative space, you will have a far, far better photograph. Having said that, this is a tricky dish to shoot. You could maybe try shooting it. Don't shoot it right from the top. You could maybe try shooting it from the side. If it's very hot and you have a little steam coming out and you can capture that in your picture, that would work great too. Photograph on the right. To me, the big problem here is that the background is far, far too busy. So you've got a lot of stuff in the plate already. Okay, it's been arranged nicely. The lime is nice. The cucumber, rice, the pieces. That's all good. But then in the background, you've got this plant. It almost looks like the plant is growing out of the center dish, you know. And it's a very, very busy background, and it's distracting me too much from what's been shot. If you have so much in your plate, the logic would be that keep the background as stark and clean as possible so that it doesn't come in the way. And I would not use this plate because again, you got patterns and colors of blue on the plate, and that is confusing with all the colors. So blues and grays don't really go with warm. You've got warm colors on the dish, yellows, browns, oranges, but the plate has got blue, green, and the background is green. So you can definitely shoot this much better. Don't don't cut off the edges of the plates. If you see the right and left, the plate edges have been cut off. Keep that. That's another thing to keep in mind. Before you take your photograph, please look at left, right, bottom corners, top, bottom corners. You will see something that is not required or has crept in or you haven't seen. It's very important, and it's important in any kind of photography, not just in food. So you might see some string hanging there which you forgot, or some towel hanging or whatever. You don't want that in your picture. So this picture, definitely cleaner plate, cleaner background for sure. What I mean by cleaner plate is less design on the plate. So the image on the left is not too bad. It's shot from up. The colors are somewhat complementing. Now the only real thing I would say here is there is a fold in your tablecloth at the bottom, which really, to me, I find very distracting. So you probably didn't even notice it, but now you are going to, because you're going to just look for all these things. Also, if you see, your tablecloth has got a line on the left side, which is very nice, but it's completely wonky. So keep a lookout now for all these kind of things. And there's a pattern right under the dish. Also, there's hearts on the side. So maybe you want to keep the background a little clearer, but I like what you've done on the top. You've put are those rose petals?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. So they're nicely arranged. There's a nice simplicity to the dish. It's just that the background needs to be worked on a little bit. Again, if you chose maybe a sort of dark, flat background, like a stone or something, black, blue, gray stone, you'll find the whites in your dish will pop up so much more than having this sort of cherry red background that there is right now. Dish on the right side, I can see the legs of the person who is shooting it, I think, and that is definitely a no-no. So position your plate is nice. The way you've arranged it is very nice. You've got nice colors. I'm not sure what is on the right side. Is that tea? I think it's tea.
Tea or soup? I'm not sure. Yeah.
So it could be tea, just that in the picture, the color has become lighter. So it's nice because it complements what's in the plate, and there's a nice design in the plate. Everything is wonderful in the plate and this cup and saucer, but definitely you do not want your legs to be in the picture, and the background is far, far too, let's say that there's no thought given here on the background. It's a table and it's just been plonked there. So you want the background to be much cleaner, much nicer. This table has got little marks on the top which are scuffed, which should not be there. So you could cover it with a nice tablecloth, a dark tablecloth, so if you have white cutlery, crockery, it's quite obvious that if you put a black or darker surface in the background, all your stuff is going to pop out much more. Okay, so that looks like some kind of tenderloin beef on the left. Am I right, Zarine? Yeah. So this is also tricky to shoot because you want that pink and red in the inside, I suppose, to come out. And so there's clearly a nice design effort made here with the slices, the beef slices arranged nicely, nice green garnish on the top, a little bit of sprinkle of sauce on the side, etc. But there's some very strange things on the corners. I'm not sure what that is. There is a technique in photography in post-editing called vignette. What a vignette does is it darkens the corners and it pops the center out. It's very nice and useful tool to explore. But if you overdo the vignette, which I think is what has happened here, you get these blurry black edges. So I like the plate and everything, but I think that black on the side, particularly on the left bottom corner, is looking a little ugly. It looks like to me, it looks like something has spilled over there and fallen onto the plate. If you look at the bottom left corner, so keep the image clean. And also the dish, if you notice, if you look at the top, it seems to be sort of at an angle. The right side seems dipping, the left side seems higher, which you can do, but there doesn't seem to be a logic or a reason for doing it. It looks more like the person has not held the camera straight. So if you were to use a stand and shoot multiple photographs, you will find one that is like absolutely perfectly in line. Going to the photograph on the right, I'm not sure what the photograph is selling, because there's a teacup. I think that's milk and sugar. So what is the subject here? Is it tea that you're selling, or is it some kind of special milk or sugar? So it doesn't give the message of what the person is trying to, whatever the person is selling, that message is not coming across. So you have to be very clear in your message. And your backdrop, if you look again, I think the tray is slightly crooked. And if you look at the bottom left corner, the table has got some scuff marks on it. So these are all absolute. I mean, I know this was before, and I know that you probably just took this in a hurry, but you can't do that. So now pay attention. You can't have scuff marks. The dirt is obviously out of the question when it comes to food. So nothing must look splotchy or stained or scarred, or unless it's in a creative, nice way which adds to the picture. But definitely here, the splotch on the left bottom corner should be avoided. The splotch on the right, there's a little scratch on the right. So you need to find your space. Find a space, nice, clean surface to put it on. And if you can't find that, just put a cloth. I mean, buy 5 or 6 colors, plain colors. So you can just experiment with that. It's the simplest way to keep your background clean and nice. Okay, photograph on the right. See, nice spot with that corner of the balcony, which is fine. But so much greenery in the background is definitely distracting me from the subject. Having said that, I'm okay with even that. But one thing I'm noticing now here is, are these, Zarine, what exactly is this? It looks like a...
So I would, to me, it looks like, some scrambled eggs in a bun. That's my reading.
Okay.
And there is some dip or sauce, but again, it's funny because there's a crack in that sauce.
Yeah, no, I think that is that's the balcony railing. So I don't think it's a sauce. I think it's a hole in the plate.
Okay,
And
okay.
Yeah. So that's actually, I just figured that out, though I've seen this picture 4 or 5 times.
Sorry, yes.
No, so I also got misled. So that actually it's a very nice plate, and it's been nicely arranged to get that cut in the center. But the point is that I also thought it was a sauce or a dip first. And only now when I'm looking at it, I've realized that. So see, be careful.
Yes.
A design element is great, but it can be misleading. So do show the photograph to a friend or somebody in your house to say that, is it clear what I'm showing, whatever. And because really speaking, this is a very nice design thought that I will place it here and this crack will come right in the middle. But to me, it first conveyed some kind of brown sauce or dip. And that obviously is misleading. Then the second thing I would say is that you definitely, the second pav looks like it's been either eaten or chopped or something. That is a big no-no. You can't have that in a photograph at all. So your photograph has to be very neat and very presentable. So yes, of course, now when you're dealing with eggs, some of it is going to pop out from the side, whatever. Try to keep it a little cleaner. Try and position it in such a way that it doesn't, and definitely don't put the second one with one part of it either eaten or missing. Photograph on the right is actually very nice because the background complements the color of what's happening inside. But what I am little tossed about here is that this is Badam Park, but all 3 are the same. Is there a reason why there should be 3? Are there different? Is there some different flavor, whatever? So the photograph is nicely thought of. The background is good. The placement of Badam Park is in white, which is nice. Color of the font is nice. It matches the plate. But what is the message? I'm a little confused. Do you have 3 flavors in the Badam Park, or are they just 3 bowls of the same? So that's why I tell you, think of your message. What is your message? And think like a lay person who's going to see the photograph. So the only thing I would say in this photograph is this. It's just a little confusing because I'm not sure why there should be 3 bowls. Is it just a design element, or is it 3 different flavors? Okay, photograph on the left. Your food is that looks like a farcha and some sort of stir-fried veggies. Very nice, go well together, but the plate should not be so busy. You must have a white plate, nice clean white plate, because the flowers are distracting. And actually, if you look at the top left corner of the plate, there's a design of some petal, which I can't, at first I thought it was part of the food. If you look at just the top left where the stir-fried veggies are,
The light beige kind of
yes,
thing. Yeah.
yes. So at first I thought it was something to do with the food, but then later on, when I looked at it, I realized it was the design of the plate. So now you have probably not even thought what plate to use. You must have thought, okay, nice flowers, I'll put it. But now you have to think, how is the plate going to complement my food? If my food is busy, I don't want a pattern plate. Keep a nice, clean, white plate. It's always, by and large, the best thing to have. But on the other hand, if your dish is like white sauce and something, whatever, then you might want to pick a darker color plate. But by and large, I think avoid using plates with designs and flowers on it because it confuses the picture. Then definitely don't crop your plate from the left and right. So if you just had moved back, say a foot or so, you would have got a nice white oval in the middle of the red background. So your background is nice. It kind of, the plate kind of stands out. The food kind of stands out. But don't crop the plate. Don't just go in very close and try and show the food. Photograph on the right is nice. It's got some kind of, it's on a stone platter. So it looks quite nice. There's an obvious attempt at making the dish stand out and the colors contrast nicely. And without actually, I don't know if this is done intentionally, but when I was talking about that butterfly image where the center is focused and the background is defocused, you can see that it's happened in this photograph.
Yes.
So if you look at the forefront, the dish is almost in focus. I would say it's just a little out of focus. And as you go further down in perspective, the rest of the background is nicely defocused, which is good because it makes this, the center pop out quite nicely. But on the right side, I'm not sure, Zarine, there's a spoon there or like a flat spatula and there's something on top of that. Am I?
Yes.
What is
yes.
that? Am I missing something?
I'm not sure myself.
Yeah.
But I know it's got a funny edge, so I'm really not sure whether it, I don't think it forms part of the, so that's a spatula, but there's something else there.
So,
So I don't know.
I suspect there's a second implement which has been put
Yeah.
diagonally and it's placed nicely in a creative way, but it's distracting and I can't figure out what it is. So if I can't figure out what it is, then you should not, I mean, not me, but if the person can't figure out what it is, then you should definitely avoid putting it. Also, one other thing I would remove from here is if you see the top of the bowl as you go right to, let's say the bowl is a clock and you look at 12 o'clock, just beyond that on the platter, there's something, it could be cheese or something there, which is basically really sort of mucking up the curve of that bowl, the edge of the bowl. See, the bowl is white and the background is a dark blue-gray. So wherever you see that clear white against blue-gray, it looks great. But by putting that cheese or whatever that is between the bowl and the crackers, I'm not able to see the rim of the bowl clean. So you really want to leave that out of there and keep a nice sort of edge to the bowl. So otherwise, this is nicely placed and is definitely an attempt to make it look good. Yeah, picture on the left. You could probably just maybe arrange the potato fries or wedges in a better way and definitely not shoot so close. So more negative space for sure, you know, and now the background here is sort of a dark maroon and you've got very dark red, orange gravy. So either pick something that's contrasting or pick something that's complementing. So don't go halfway. So you obviously you will say, but where do I find an orange or red background in my house? I don't have a table. So therefore I say just buy some 7 or 8 tablecloths or just pieces of cloth which are of different colors and then try and bounce your image off that. So you could put like a black cloth on this and shoot from a little far. All the stuff will pop up much more. Or you could try to use some of the colors that's in the dish already, orange, red, and you could have that kind of background to complement this better.
You know, I'm sorry to interrupt, but honestly, I would love those potatoes to be fried a beautiful golden brown. Because if you look at the two right in front, they're a very pale color. So if those, you know, that somehow the color of food really indicates that you want, it tells you, I really want to eat that beautiful golden fried potato. So that it also helps to to cook your food in a way that is then appealing.
Yep, definitely makes sense, Zarine. Going to the one on the right, all the stuff that we discussed, it's far too close. You don't need to really be so close. And there are some things in the background which definitely should not be there. I think the person's finger has come on the lens. So if you look at the top right, you can see just the finger coming there. So avoid that, of course, obviously. So take multiple shots. I mean, of course, your finger will come in 1 or 2 shots. Hundreds of times I've done the same thing. But if you take 10 shots, you'll throw away 10 or 12. Out of 7, 8, you can decide which is the good one. So don't go so close, come back, because you can see also what's happening. You're very close. You're seeing the shadows in the foreground also. There's shadows in the foreground. There's the finger on the top. And then there's something on the right, which looks like some kind of black case or something, which again is sort of very distracting. So again, I think this photograph is just hastily taken. Now, whoever's taken it, if they take into consideration all the points discussed, they could shoot this much better. And definitely, if you have a nice light on this one, a yellow light, you bring across all the crisp and is that batter fried, Zain?
Crumb fried, yes, sure.
Crumb fried,
Definitely crumb fried.
Yeah, so crumb fried. So, you know, you want that nice orange crisp look to it. So don't go too close because you'll see all the discoloration and obviously all of it can't be one color. So stay a little away and it'll look much nicer. So here, I think, again, same points. We're far too close. I know that the person is probably trying to show how succulent the chicken is, and it looks damn good. It looks, I'm feeling very hungry looking at it. So that's good. But I don't know if you really need to be that close because all your lovely stuff, the lovely, is that capsicum in the back?
I think so. Maybe capsicum. Pumpkin, and I'm looking at sort of pumpkin on the right, on the left.
Capsicum, baby potatoes.
Potatoes.
Right,
yeah.
So all that is part of the dish. I mean, you know, you're not going to eat only the chicken. You know, you want to eat it as a whole meal. Obviously, it's in an aluminum container, so it's like a meal. So you don't really need to be so close. You can just go out and show the rest of the stuff as well. And if this is a food parcel, then I guess the aluminum container is important because you want to show how it's going to be coming to the person. But by and large, aluminum, tin foil, these are stuff which are very difficult to shoot because they're reflective surfaces. So what will happen is any light you put on it will bounce off it and your photograph will be sort of impaired in certain ways. So try and avoid aluminum, foil, tin, those kind of things. But having said that, if that's part of your delivery and you need to show that, of course you need to show it.
Last, this and one more slide.
All right, so the one on the left, Hakka noodles and fried rice, paneer chili, ₹90. All right, so the top black space is too much. Now, if you put this image on a phone, let's say 30% of your image is just black on the top, and your 3 bowls are going to be very small in the center. So you might want to position them a little differently, maybe. You know, and then you don't want that black on the top, or you could move the top bowl up so that it dissects the line between the white and black. You know what I'm trying to say, Zain? Where the black and the white line meet, the white tablecloth and the black space. Maybe the bowl could have gone up and it would be halfway through that line, you know, so at least you have a little more space so it's not so confusing. And these 3 dishes obviously show that Hakka noodle fried rice, so it's Chinese stuff, but a lot of contrasting colors, you know. The dish on the left is, what would be that color? Like a brown, purple.
Yeah.
Then you've got the fried rice with the garnish green, and then you've got the noodles with the So it's a little confused. It's a little confusing, not from the message. It's a little confusing from the colors. So try and match the colors a little bit. I mean, I know if these are your 3 flagship dishes, then you can't. You have to use these, fair enough. But maybe just position them a little more aesthetically. Definitely lose that black space in the top because you're losing a lot of, you're giving up a lot of space where you could have some information on. The one on the right side, again, samosas. I mean, not the greatest position, you know, the backdrop, again, pots and grass green leaves in the background are far too distracting. You really want to show a little bit more of the samosas. And if that's some kind of chutney or dip that you have on the side, why not have one that's open, you know, so that you can see what's inside? Because I don't really know what is inside. It looks like some mayo kind of dip, but I may be totally wrong. So you definitely need to have one of those open, a little bit of mayo maybe on the lid, but not in an ugly way, not dripping, it should not look ugly in any way. So definitely needs a better backdrop.
It's your last one.
Yeah, so this, see, again, there's a nice attempt here to make this, and it looks very colorful and nice, but the point is that, again, maybe it's just a little bit much because you've got a lot of flowers, you've got this shaggy carpet, you've got flowers, red flowers, white flowers, and then there's a quiche in the left corner. And then I'm guessing these are cupcakes in the A, which is very nicely positioned. And then I think there's some kind of like a tart or a pastry on the left side.
Yeah.
So this is a lovely photograph. Is very nicely positioned, but I think there's just too many things happening here. You could just make it a little sparser, and I think you would have a far better image. Because again, when we are seeing this image on a computer screen, at least I am, but if you're seeing this on a phone, what will happen is the person who's seeing it will have to zoom in to see this, zoom in to see that. And really, you don't want that. You want your image to be nice and strong without the person having to expand the screen and try and zoom in. So just maybe a little less busy because there are just too many colors and too many things here. But very nice attempt at making it sort of presentable and colorful.
Great, Zubin. That finishes the photographs, and I'm just going to let these little tips be here while we just see. There are only few points on the chat. Karishma said she says, thank you, Zubin, very helpful. This is the human element. Some people use children or pets even, but a human element like you are showing is very helpful to understand size. She also says that steam coming out of food is so appealing, but what is the best way of capturing this? As you say, let the image speak for the product.
Right. So steam is a wonderful element, and I'm glad you brought it up. It definitely adds a lot to the dish. It makes it look fresh. It always gives it a nice vibe. It's very tricky to shoot because when you put the dish, and if you're shooting for, let's say, half an hour, then the steam is not going to constantly come up. So you could do a little bit of cheating here and try and position something that's burning at the back. Say, I don't know, maybe an agarbatti or something that gives out some smoke, you know. I'm not sure if does coal give out smoke?
Coal, no, not that kind.
No. So then you need something that gives out smoke, you know, please be careful, don't burn your house down. But if there's something that you can position at the back with not being in the frame, you know, something that's steaming out, maybe even just a steam kettle, you know, like with very hot water. So
yeah.
the steam that comes out from the spout, if you put it down and the steam comes out in the background, you will get a very nice image because it's practically impossible to shoot the natural steam of the hot dish because the dish is going to start cooling the minute you take it off the chula, hot plate or whatever. But definitely a good point. Please do try and include that in your food if you're trying to make it look fresh.
Yasmin's asking, are there any good and easy editing apps that you can recommend? I shall send her to you for classes.
So really, you know, to be honest, I'm not an Android phone user, but I know Android phones now are fantastic. I basically use an iPhone, and the editing apps on the basic iPhone camera are fantastic. So, you know, your best bet is just go to YouTube. YouTube is your lifeline to anything. And just type best apps for editing and you'll get 10 apps which will help you. But really, I don't use any app for editing. I do it post immediately as we showed you in that video, when we cropped the space and we added little warmth. The amount of things you have on this to edit is just absolutely mind-boggling. If you take any photograph, I'm just going to go back to that banana photograph that we had, and it's you can't really see anything on the screen.
No, you can't see.
Light. But really, there's a whole bunch. Once I click edit, right, there's a whole bunch of stuff that comes up over here on the left side. And there's so much you can do, from making it lighter, making it darker, cropping, adding a vignette, which I explained to you was darkening the edges to make the center pop out, adding a little bit of color, decreasing color if you find too much in it. So please do use the app. I mean, it's free. It's part of the camera settings, but be careful that you don't overdo it, because you get excited. Wow, look at the colors. Oh, this is looking so much better. Fantastic, super. And then compare it to your food. And if it's looking very different from your food, then definitely you should not be sending that image out.
Last one, Zubin, the beef picture.
Yes.
So Pasang says, he said, thank you, Zubin. That was very helpful and insightful as well. He says that he thinks it's some kind of shadow on the plate that just wouldn't go away. He tried taking more than one picture, but the shadow continued to stay. So he's put a little thinking icon, emoji there.
Okay. See, it's sometimes what happens is, if a light is coming in from a strange place, or there are certain aberrations that you cannot explain. Like, I once took a photograph of a very old telephone and it just lit up all in blue for some reason. So, and I showed it to a photographer friend who's a professional. I said, why did this happen? And he looked at it and said, something. Then he said, something, I don't know. So sometimes it just happens that light reflects strangely, but definitely, you see, the thing is, it's shot against a very hard black surface. I'm not sure if that's a table or what. And then the edges have got very blurred. So maybe just pick a different background, because there's a lovely attempt in making the plate and look nice and decorative as you would be presented in a good, high quality restaurant.
Great. Thank you, Zubin. Doesn't seem to be we don't have any more questions, and it is way, way past our usual time. Thank you very, very much for agreeing to do this. And I certainly hope that I will be seeing better pictures on Facebook. And I'm going to stop this share. And I'm going to keep a very close eye on what comes up on Facebook, especially from my group of prospective foodpreneurs. And I should be waving the whip or cracking the whip every time I see something they haven't done right. Okay, Marok also says, thank you very much for all the helpful hints.
Pleasure.
And if we are done, we will say good night. Our next session is a cooking demo once more. This is on 2 weeks from now. So that's the 13th of September. We will again have 3 chefs doing a demonstration, and hopefully we'll see lots and lots of you back again. Thank you, everyone. Yazdi, thank you as always for being there when I really, really need you. Many thanks and good night.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.